Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols and I'm here to bring you your Nichols Worth. And today from Logos Rebinding, we have a rebind in Sokoto goat skin with a lambskin liner. But before we dive in, I want you to check out this unboxing. Due to a labeling mishap, I had to go to the post office to pick up this package and rescue it. So now I am off to my office. It's the first thing in the morning, so the post office is pretty busy and off I go. Check out the Tesla. So as I'm driving to my office, let me tell you the story about this Bible. I've got a friend that sent this off to get rebound and something went wrong and it wasn't able to be completed. So I talked to a friend of mine, and this friend, in exchange for a review, was willing to rescue my friend's Bible and make him this beautiful, beautiful Bible. Daniel with Logos Rebinding does some amazing work. I've actually reviewed some of his work and I'll put that on the end screen in this video. So here I am at my church and I'm going to head to my office and open this thing up. But as I'm going in the door, of course, this is our church foyer. This is my wife's office, also known as the secretary's office. Going into my office, which you've seen before. This is where I make all the videos. Lights on, boom. All right, let's unbox this thing. And it's packed well. Good on Daniel for packing this thing up good. So here we are. Let's rip this paper out. And what do we have? It's wrapped in cellophane. So let's take this stuff off, but so far this looks really sharp. Now this is some Sokoto goat skin. It has yellow accent stitching, and check out that spine. Look at that Cairo in the middle of the spine there. Spine work is incredible. Stitch work is incredible. Tool work is incredible. The gilding looks pretty good for a Bible of its age. And when you open this thing up, this is an old ASV block. It's held up really well. You can see this has the square corners, so this was not converted. And then this is a wide margin ASV. It's got the wide margins all the way around, especially in the Apocrypha. But I'll show you more on this a little bit later. Anyhow, here is the full review. Those are always fun, and this Bible has indeed a second story. Its first story is this is a very old text block. I have never seen one like it before, but before we dive into that, let's take a look at this excellent rebind work by Daniel at Logos. If you've never gotten a rebind done from Daniel and you're in the market for a rebind, he will not do you wrong. But this, of course, as I said, is the Sokoto goat skin. It's got that beautiful grain, one thing that Sokoto is known for. And then what he did is he did it with yellow accent stitching. Really pretty stitch work there. And then a tool line right here. And then one thing about Daniel that I think he always knocks it out of the park on is his spine work. He just does such a unique look for his spine with those really high defined raised hubs. I love his logo. Is probably my favorite logo with the sword. And then he put the Cairo in here. I thought that was a nice little touch. This is an ASV, and of course stamped Holy Bible. Everything looks nice and centered, squared up good. Just beautiful work. A little extra tool line here on the top and the bottom. It goes to that sword, but the sword is stamped in there so good. Sokoto is very hard to stamp in. Now this doesn't look like some of the super deep grain Sokoto. There's several different grains that are offered. I'm not exactly sure which one this is, but 3 gold Beresford ribbons, very nice. And then the liner, check that out, that burgundy with a really nice thick tool line. Beautiful accent stitching. I mean, this thing is just gorgeous. This thing is just gorgeous. Now, one thing is this was initially squared off. I don't know if this was a hardback because this is actually not my text block. And also, this is not Daniel's ink dye job here. This is original to this text block, to my understanding. Now, this text block is really cool, and I don't know anything about it. So let's explore together. Check that out. I cannot read that name because the cursive is so old-fashioned, but this belonged to somebody with that name. And then when you get to the title page, there's several blank pages here. This was published by Thomas Nelson and Sons, so this thing is definitely older because they don't call it that anymore. The ASV was done in 1901. I seriously doubt this is a 1901 printing, but let's see if we can find out when it was printed. Looks like this was printed in 1929. So we're looking at almost a 100-year-old text block here. Really cool, and it is a sewn binding. You can see that stitch work there. Here's a preface to the American Standard Version. This is a version I have a goal to read. Now what makes this really neat is it has wide margins all the way around. So you have some margins in the gutter, has some margins on the bottom and the top and on the outside. Now one thing is the textual notes are in those margins, so it is going to frustrate those that are note takers, but this review isn't about a Bible that's available anyway. I don't even know how easy this one is to find. Again, this one is not mine, but the references are in the center. And then when you dive into the layout, I don't know what size font this is, but this appears to be somewhere in the neighborhood of a 9. The verses are definitely big, but they're not bold. They can be a little bit difficult to spot, but you can see them throughout there. And I'm also not sure the significance of the number on this side of the page, the 26:6. Maybe that's where the verses end. Yeah, that lets you know what's the last verse. And oh, that's really cool. So it lets you know what the first verse on the page is and the last verse on the page is in Exodus. Then it has a really small kind of introduction, table of showbread, the candlestick, and curtains on the tabernacle. What really sets this block apart is once you get out of the Old Testament and you get to the middle here, you have an appendix in the middle. And once you get past the appendix, you have some lined note paper where you can take your notes. And then you have, after your lined note paper, the Apocrypha. So the Apocrypha is in the middle of this one. And then check it out. The Apocrypha has a little bit smaller of a font, which is really wild. Check this out. So you've got what's probably a 9 or a 10 point font here, but then you probably have what's like a 7 or an 8 point font here. But it really leaves you a lot of margin space for notes in the apocryphal part. And it seems the references and notes are very minimal, if at all. You got a few notes, I don't see any references at all. It really looks a lot different than what you're used to in the rest of the text. So once you get past the apocrypha, then you have more lined note pages. And these have some double imaging. Again, this is like a 100-year-old text block nearly, so you're going to have some flaws. And it gives you a preference to the American edition in the New Testament. And then you have your New Testament with your references and your notes and all that good stuff. Really a beautiful layout, really beautiful work. Daniel just absolutely crushed this project. Of course, it has your maps in the back, has some indexes. Doesn't look like it has much of a concordance at all. It has another appendix, but really cool. But I thought you'd want to see a nice, out-of-print, old-school ASV layout. Rebound by Daniel of Logos, who does amazing work. I highly recommend him. God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus on. This is your Nicholsworth.